A little interesting. I was going through Steam and saw a game series called Fighting Fantasy Classics. It looks to be kind of like a solo RPG kind of thing. So let's check it out. We are going to pull the game up. All right, there we go. So let's see. The only one that seems to be available at first is called Bloodbones. All right. Pirates definitely looks to be a little mystical, a little horror, a little supernatural. Let's see, it's game book 61. Okay, so there's some potential to this if this is pretty cool. Digging the artwork. I like the zombie pirate guy with the skull. Even the parrot looks pretty cool. All right, I'm digging it so far. If I'm judging the book by the cover, I'm digging it. Now, let's see. All right, the dreaded pirate lord Cinnabar Bloodbones, to those who feared him, was once the scourge of the 12 seas. Now he is back from the dead, seeking revenge with the dark powers of voodoo at his command. But you have revenge of your own on your mind. Cinnabar murdered your family when you were a child. Only you can prevent a new reign of terror by destroying the pirate captain and his crew of cutthroats. Come hell or high water, Bloodbones must be stopped. See, the author was Jonathan Green. The cover art, which again was really cool, Martin McKenna, and the illustrator is Tony Howe? Or Ho? I don't know. Let's see. Let's go. All right. Let's play. Let's see. Bloodbones is a fighting fantasy game book, an interactive adventure in which you are the hero. You can win only by choosing the correct path, finding equipment, avoiding traps, and surviving combat. Before embarking on your adventure, you must first determine your own strengths and weaknesses with a series of dice rolls. These attributes are recorded on your adventure sheet and include stamina, skill, luck, and your starting gold pieces. Before making your rolls, you must choose from one of 3 difficulty settings. This gamebook has been designed for optimum challenge on the Adventurer difficulty mode. For newcomers to Fighting Fantasy, we recommend Adventurer or Free Read modes. For experienced readers already familiar with printed versions of this gamebook, we recommend Hardcore Hero mode. Okay, so let's see. It says it's optimized for Adventurer mode. Let's go with Adventurer mode. Play Bloodbones as it was intended. Your starting stamina and initial gold pieces are... Let's see. How do we turn the page? Okay, let's see. There we go. Oh. Let's see. You have chosen the Adventurer difficulty mode. Before continuing, you must calculate your initial stamina. Your stamina score reflects your general constitution, your will to survive, your determination, and overall fitness. The higher your stamina score, the longer you will be able to survive. You must roll 2 dice and add 12 to the number rolled. This is then entered in the stamina box on your adventure sheet. Stamina will go up and down during your journey, but if your stamina falls to 0, you die and your adventure is over. If your stamina is getting low, remember to eat some of your provisions. All right, let's roll our starting stamina. Well, that kind of sucks. Okay. Let's go for skill. All right. Your skill reflects your swordsmanship and general fighting expertise. The higher, the better. Your starting skill is determined by rolling 1 die and adding 6 to the number. This is then entered into the skill box on your adventure sheet. Your adventure sheet can be accessed at any time using the menu at the bottom of the screen. Roll your starting skill. All right, let's do it. Ooh, nice. Okay. We got that. Nice. All right, so determine our luck. Your luck score indicates how naturally lucky a person you are. Luck and magic are facts of life in the fantasy world you are about to explore. Your starting luck is determined by rolling one die and adding 6 to the number. This is then entered in the luck box on your adventure sheet. All right, let's roll our starting luck. We're not that lucky. Okay, let's determine our gold. The amount of gold pieces in your possession is determined by rolling 2 dice and adding 12 to the number. This is then entered in the gold pieces box on your adventure sheet. All right, let's roll our starting gold. Well, kind of mediocre. All right, the amount of gold pieces in your adventure. All right, so now we got to do our adventurer's equipment. You begin your adventure with a sword, backpack, tinderbox, gold pieces, and a lantern to light your way. Rationing your provisions is key to a successful adventure. They may be consumed at any time, excluding combat, by accessing the adventure sheet. Each meal restores 4 stamina. Be sure to pay close attention to your stamina and restore it regularly. In Bloodbones, you begin your journey with no provisions, regardless of your chosen difficulty. During your quest, you may encounter characters and items that alter your 3 scores: stamina, skill, and luck. Usually, these scores may only ever be restored to their initial amount. On very rare occasions, a particular page may grant an effect that defies this rule. Aside from these occasions, some magic items may also allow you to exceed your initial scores. Once you've readied your equipment, there's one more thing you should know. Let's find out. During the adventure, you will notice that hours will pass at key points, usually when you have been doing something for a considerable length of time. This is very important, as will become apparent as your adventure progresses. Try not to allow too many hours to pass. All right, onward to adventure. It all started 10 years ago when the evil pirate lord Cinnabar murdered your family. At the time, you were only 12 years old and lived with your family in the small fishing village of Clam Beach on the northern coast of Ruddlestone, halfway between the 2 major ports of the kingdom: Harabnab, home to all lawful adventurers and sailors, and the sinister Port of Crabs. Life in Clam Beach was not easy, but it did have a peaceful security about it. And then the terrible day came. It was a clear summer day in Warming when the huge, forbidding Black Galleon sailed into the bay, flying the dreaded flag of the Skull and Crossbones. Pirates. The bloodthirsty cutthroats were soon racing up the beach towards the village. The fighting was swift and bloody. Soon, most of the grown folk of Clam Beach had been killed, your father and 2 siblings dying while trying to defend the village. In the end, the village elders had no choice but to surrender to the marauding raiders and open the village's meager treasure coffers. The cruel pirate captain came ashore. There we go. From his ship to collect the booty himself. The sight of him filled you with awe and fear. The pirate was a tall, handsome man with a neatly trimmed, pointed black beard and his hair tied back in a ponytail. He was dressed in the clothes of a nobleman, with a fine scarlet coat trimmed with gold braid and wearing a large tricorn hat. At his waist hung a gleaming cutlass that you could not help but noticing that on the back of his right hand was tattooed the image of a grinning black skull. When the raiders had finally gone, filled with feelings of hatred for those who had murdered your family, You asked Rayguy, the village soothsayer, who the pirate captain was. That villain is one of the most evil men ever to sail the 12 seas of Titan, was his vehement reply. He is one of the most feared pirate lords of our age, a creature without remorse, a murderer, and a follower of the bloodthirsty voodoo death god Quirky, whose mark is the black skull. He is Cinnabar, but because of the terrible atrocities he commits, he is also known as Bloodbones. From that moment, you vowed that one day you would have your revenge on the evil Cinnabar. Okay, I'm digging the setup. Your mother became ill soon after that dreadful day, and 3 years later she died. On your 16th birthday, you left Clam Beach and made your way to Harabnab, gaining the position of cabin boy on a ship traveling to the distant continent of Alancia. For the last 6 years, you have sailed all across the globe, but you never forgot the promise you made to yourself a decade ago. Over many voyages, you have tried to learn as much as you can about the rogue captain. You discovered that Cinnabar's galleon, the Virago, is frequently seen sailing in the waters around Nankunu Bay, and that he has a hidden base somewhere close to the Port of Crabs. You also gleaned as much information as you could about the notorious city. And so, when you decided that you were at last ready to confront your enemy, and the chance of passage on a merchant ship sailing to the Port of Crabs came up, you leapt at the opportunity. Vengeance, you are sure, will soon be yours. The Port of Crabs is haven to every pirate, buccaneer, and freebooter who ply their trade off the coast of the kingdom of Ruddlestone in the Old World. As you stand at the prow of the merchantman, looking towards the land, you can make out the ramshackle jumble of buildings of the infamous city and the outline of the old fort that stands above it like some ancient crumbling sentinel. The merchantman bumps against the stone jetty, and you quickly disembark. Not only is the Port of Crabs one of the most dangerous cities in the Old World, but a thick fog is starting to roll in from the sea. It is late afternoon on a chill day in the month of unlocking, and the docks are bustling with activity. Standing close to the quayside is a large old stone building, which looks like it could withstand a battering from Haidana, god of the deep himself. Hanging over its sturdy oak door is a faded sign declaring, "This is the Jolly Roger." This seems as good a place as any to begin your search for Cinnabar. So you enter the inn. All right, let's go in. In the inn. And since we're in an inn, I'm going to take a chance to have a drink. Nothing alcoholic, just a Coke. Not sponsored, but what the hell? Still thirsty. Oh, that's good. Okay, back to the story. The spacious bar inside the Jolly Roger is packed with all manner of scurvy-looking sailors and other lowlives. The landlord is as big as an ox and has a large anchor tattooed on one arm. No one takes any notice of you as you enter, so you approach the bar and order a tankard of ale, costing 1 gold piece. You decide to question the landlord about Cinnabar first. Over your tankard of ale, you talk about the weather and the state of trade, and then draw the innkeeper onto the subject of the pirate you seek. I hear the Virago plies these waters, you say. I'm surprised we weren't attacked ourselves. Not anymore it doesn't, the landlord replies. Have you not heard? Cinnabar has been dead these last 6 months. Cinnabar dead? You have come all this way, after years of harboring desires for revenge, only to find that the dread pirate lord has already passed from this world? You ask the landlord how he died. Let's find out. I'm kind of curious myself. Have you not heard? I would have thought that everyone as far as the Diamond Islands would know by now. It all happened last hiding. You listen attentively as the innkeeper relates the tale. It appears that Cinnabar and his crew were emptying the gold of a galley sailing from Harabnab to Arkleton, in distant Analand, when the renowned bounty hunter Conin caught up with them in his ship, the Fortune. Unable to escape, Cinnabar and his men had to defend themselves against the crews of the galley and Conan. Fierce fighting ensued, with Cinnabar eventually falling at Conan's hand, having suffered an incredible number of wounds, his body being lost to the sea. With their leader killed, the surviving members of his crew fled aboard the Virago, returning to the Port of Crabs. Soon after Cinnabar's second command, Merle the Red set off in the Virago amid terrible storms, purportedly to recover her captain's body. All right, I am digging the story. I'm into this. All right, let's go. Many now believe that the pirate lord's galleon sank as it has not been seen since, the landlord says, concluding his story. You thank him for his help, and in a bewildered daze, you make to leave the inn. You console yourself with the thought that at least the murderer of your family has at last been brought to justice. As you leave the Jolly Roger, you feel someone pulling on your jerkin. They're jerking your jerkin. Turning round, you discover that an old drunk, slumped at a table by himself, is the one trying to attract your attention. Just because he's dead doesn't mean he's at rest, mutters the drunk. Curious about the drunk's words, you sit down opposite the old man and ask him what he means. Let's just say you don't want to go believing everything you hear. But I know what's going on. Oh, yes. Old Dreg knows. Cinnabar isn't really dead, see? And he's coming back, the old man says in a harsh whisper. Intrigued, you press Dreg to tell you more, but he suddenly becomes serious and looks around the barroom. Uneasily. Not here. Meet me outside in 10 minutes. You nod in agreement and leave the Jolly Roger. All right, so let's see what we do next. Ooh, I like the illustration. Reminds me of the old like D&D fantasy novels I used to read, like the old Dragonlance series. Or even some of the old Tolkien. Very cool, I'm digging it. All right, back to the story. Tendrils of fog are now swirling around the boats in the harbor and oozing along the streets of the town. When the 10 minutes are up, you quickly return to the Jolly Roger and sneak down the side alley next to it. In the mist and shadows at the end of the narrow alleyway, you can make out 3 figures standing over a 4th, cowering on the ground at their feet. Wasting no time, you draw your sword and dash towards them. Hearing your approach, the 3 pirates turn to face you. The burly characters are ugly, scarred rogues, and the biggest of them, who is easily wielding a heavy wooden club in one hand and holding a bullwhip in the other, looks as if he has some ogre blood in his lineage. At the pirate's feet lies Dreg, beaten, bruised, and only just conscious. Here's the snooper, growls the half-ogre. You're no match for us. By the time we finished with you, you'll be feeding the shrimps. Or rather, the shrimps will be feeding on you. The 2 other pirates burst into coarse laughter at their companion's joke. Yeah, you're fish bait. Still laughing, the ruffians advance towards you. Apart from the half-ogre, there is a well-built bearded man, missing most of his teeth, and a leaner rogue with 2 ugly red scars running down the right-hand side of his face. You may be about to engage in your first fighting fantasy battle. Would you like to know more about how combat works? I am going to go with yes, please. Let's see how combat works in this game. When you begin a battle in Fighting Fantasy Classics, your adventure sheet will appear at the bottom of the screen, displaying your stamina, skill, and luck stats. Above this, the monster encounter sheet will appear, displaying the stamina and skill of your foe. Battles are resolved by rolling two six-sided dice, written as 2d6, for both you and your enemy, and adding the result of the roll to the respective skill score. This is called the attack strength. Both sets of dice are rolled at the same time. Your dice are white and your opponent's dice are red. Okay, that's cool. If your attack strength is higher, you have wounded your foe, causing 2 points of stamina damage. If the enemy's attack strength is higher, it has wounded you, causing 2 points of stamina damage. If both attack strength totals are the same, you have each avoided each other's blows, resulting in a draw. After hitting your opponent or taking stamina damage, you may use luck to inflict a more serious wound on the creature, or to minimize the effects of a wound you've received. To do this, select the luck button, which will roll 2 green six-sided dice. If the number rolled is equal to or less than your current luck score, you have been lucky. If the number rolled is higher than your current luck score, you have been unlucky. If you are attacking and you are lucky, you have inflicted a severe wound and the enemy loses an extra 2 points of stamina. If you are unlucky, the wound was a mere graze and the creature only loses 1 point of stamina. If you have been wounded and are lucky, you have managed to avoid the full damage of the blow and only lose 1 point of stamina. Conversely, if you have been unlucky, you have taken a more serious blow and lose an extra point of stamina. Your luck score decreases by 1 point each time you use luck during a battle. Sometimes you will have the option to escape combat. If you choose to escape your foe, automatically scores a hit against you, causing 2 stamina points of damage. Such is the price of cowardice. Battles will continue round by round until the stamina score of either you or your foe has been reduced to 0. If you come across more than one creature in an encounter, then once the first creature has been defeated, you will automatically begin another battle with the next. Alright, let's see. Back to the situation at hand. Okay. How will you deal with the ruffians stepping menacingly towards you? To charge one of the pirates, turn to 357. If you want to stand firm and prepare to fight the rogues, or to try and escape by running back along the alleyway. Alright, let's see. What do I want to do? I'm going to stand firm, prepare to fight. I'm not going to... Alright, swinging their cudgels, the pirates engage you in combat. It's time to fight. Okay, let's do it. Alright. Fight. Ooh, okay. Cool. Fight. Yes! Alright. Alright, so the first one's down, second one coming up. Get him. Ooh, yes. Got his ass. Alright, let's go. Fight. Alright. You defeat these violent scoundrels. The half-ogre steps forward to fight you. Will you face your opponent? If so, we're trying to escape. Yeah, no, we're not running. We're going to fight. Dropping his whip, the half-ogre moves in to attack you with his club. Get ready to fight. Yeah, that's right. We ain't running. Mama didn't raise no bitches. Alright, let's fight. Yeah. Alright, come on. You're going down, mother... That's right. Take that. Booyah, mother... Alright, we killed him. Let's go there. Alright. The last of the pirates falls, and with some relief, you sheath your sword. It looks as if the pirates have beaten Dreg within an inch of his life, and he is failing fast. You do your best to make the old man comfortable as he opens his eyes. "Thanks, stranger," he gasps, "but I'm a goner now. They're up to something, you know." You ask him who he's talking about. "Cinnabar's crew, the pirates of the Black Skull." Looking at the hands of Dreg's assailants, you see that each bears the tattoo of a grinning black skull. "I've seen them meeting up again, around the taverns in the city. Silas Gallows, Keelhaul Jack, Old Crivens, even Malou the Witch Doctor. They're planning something, all right. Rumor says Merle the Red found Cinnabar's body, and that he's not rightly dead. But he's not rightly alive either. See, it's all that voodoo and black magic they meddle in. Not right, it isn't. I've heard tell that they're planning something big tonight. You'd think old Snide and the guard would be looking into it, but truth be told, no one's been able to locate their hideout." Dreg coughs weakly. "He's coming back. We'll all be doomed. Stranger, beware the Black Skull. Bloodbones is coming back." And then he's gone. Laying the old man down, you ponder his last words and what your next actions should be. So Cinnabar is not really dead. In that case, you may still have a chance for revenge. But what did Dreg mean when he said that Cinnabar is not really alive either? Dreg has given you several clues about your enemy and where you should start your search for him, and it seems that time is of the essence. And if you want to stop the pirates of the Black Skull, the old man mentioned that the pirates of the Black Skull were gathering again in the Port of Crabs, so they may have a hidden base somewhere in the city. But of course, at present, you have no idea where it may be. Okay. Before leaving Dreg, you search the bodies of his assailants for any further clues. You find nothing helpful, but you do discover that one was carrying a bottle of rum. Drinking the rum will restore 4 stamina points. You now have 6 options available to you. You could visit some of the taverns and inns yourself in the hopes of finding out more. Perhaps you could visit the notorious gambling pits, a possible source of information and a way of increasing your gold pieces. Alternatively, it might be a good idea to better equip yourself by visiting the markets before you set out on your quest. You could try to find out more about the Black Skull and the cult of Quizkari. Then again, although Governor Montargo has certainly allowed the port to remain safe. Safe haven for buccaneers and freebooters, you may do well to get help from the authorities against Cinnabar. Or you could take the direct approach, abandon your search for further information, and instead look for the pirates' hidden base. Alright, I think getting some equipment might be a good idea. So, let's go do that. The port's sprawling markets lie within the Merchant Quarter, which runs from Farthing Lane to Moneylenders Street. You have 2 possible options. If you want to look for practical equipment around the markets, or you can visit the Port of Crab's lively bazaar with its more exotic and expensive wares. We don't have a whole lot of money, so let's go with the more practical equipment at first. Okay. Scouring the various stalls, you soon find a number of items which might be of use to you on your quest. You may buy any of the things on the list as long as you have enough money. Okay. Let's get a rope. You always need a rope. Let's get some provisions. Let's get a cutlass. A throwing dagger. Let's get a poison antidote. Alright, we can't get that. Okay, we can't get that. Alright. Alright, take a look around the bazaar for more exotic items, or you can leave the markets. Well, let's take a look around the bazaar. You are enticed towards the bazaar by its colorful stalls, as well as the sounds and smells of far-off countries. You ignore the rolls of silk and the baskets of spices, but are attracted to a brightly decorated stall covered in a variety of unusual items. Talking with the vendor, you discover that the man is a talismonger, a trader in artifacts that are allegedly magical. However, by the look of some of the objects, you do wonder if they are really as charged with esoteric power. The magical items the talismonger has to offer are listed below with their prices. You may buy as many of them as you want, as long as you have enough gold pieces. Alright. Take a look at what we've got here. And doesn't look like we can afford anything. Alright, so let's see. Once you've made your purchases, or lack thereof, let's go. Okay, so we already looked at the practical equipment. So let's continue our quest. As you leave the markets, you note that 1 hour has passed. As you are walking along Trader Street, you cannot help but notice a roguish figure standing on the corner of Lobster Alley. The man is gaunt and scrawny, in his later years, and with several days' growth of stubble. He also has an eye patch, a wooden stump for a leg beneath his right knee, and wears a long coat and tricorn hat. A monkey, with its own tiny waistcoat, is scampering around the man's shoulders. As you walk past the pirate, you make eye contact, and he beckons to you with a glance before turning and hobbling up the alley. All right. Will you follow the man, or will you go on your way? Oh, how can we just walk away? Let's follow him. Despite having a wooden leg, the old rogue moves quite quickly and disappears around a corner before you can catch up with him. As you are about to round the corner yourself, you suddenly start to have misgivings about your latest course of action. Okay, now I'm wondering if we should turn around or if we keep following. Alright, if our gut's saying don't do it, let's go back. You turn around and come face to face with two black-robed figures, their faces hidden by the hoods of their habits. Wielding heavy koshas, the devotees advance on you. It's time to fight. Alright, let's rock. Okay, the first devotee, there's two of them. Alright, they've got a 6 stamina. Ooh! Oh. Oh, fuck, okay. That was not good. Okay, that was much better. Alright, fight. Ooh! Okay. Come on, you can do this. Fight! Alright, one down. You have defeated first devotee. Now you must face second devotee. Alright. Well, the meowing you hear is my kitty Cooper. Ooh, a draw. Alright, let's get him. Oh, that was not good. Alright, let's get him. Okay, that's better. Yeah! One more good hit and I should get him. And that wasn't it. Alright, let's go. Come on. All right, that's better. That's better. Yeah, that's right. You're devoted to dying. That's what you're devoted to. You are triumphant. Excellent. All I could picture was Bill and Ted in my head when they did that. Okay, if you defeated the rogue figures, we did. Okay, again, digging the illustrations. Your opponent slumped to the ground, and you turn around to deal with the treacherous pirate. The old rogue is already fleeing as fast as he can along the alley. You run after him, but hearing your approach, the man spins around and lets fly a dagger. Ooh, okay, test your skill. We haven't done that yet. Let's try. Ooh, we passed. All right. So we succeeded. You duck just in time to avoid being hit by the dagger. You then close on the old pirate. The pirate unsheaths a long knife in which to defend himself. You ain't taking old Crivens yet, he spits vehemently. Come any closer, and I'll slit your gizzard. Ignoring the old man's threats, once again you engage in battle. While you are fighting its master, the villain's pet monkey does its best to distract you, climbing all over you and biting you. As a result, for the duration of this battle, your attack strength is reduced by 1 point. Okay, that's fair. Alright, get ready to fight. Whew, okay, let's do this. Nice. Okay, fight, fight, fight. Okay, ooh, get him, get him. Fight. Yeah. One more shot and he's down. Come on. Yeah, that's right. Suck it. We are triumphant. Alright. Let's see. As Criven's monkey scampers away, you make a quick search of the bodies of your assailants, each of which has the mark of the black skull on their right hand. The devotees carry no possessions, but the old pirate is a different case entirely. About his person, Crivens has a purse containing 6 gold pieces and a very unusual coin indeed, almost twice the size of a gold piece. Its face bears the image of a crab. It is a doubloon. Turning it over, you are surprised to discover that the other side has also been stamped with the picture of a crab. Doubloons have not been minted in the port of Crabs for 2 centuries, and as a consequence are rare and of great value. The coin you hold in your hand, however, is obviously a counterfeit, as it has 2 heads. From this, you can only surmise that someone has been trying to mint their own doubloons, no doubt as a way to raise some money. You also take Criven's throwing dagger. You can use it at the start of combat to inflict 2 stamina damage to your foe. Okay, we're going to hold on for just a moment. I have to feed little Cooper here. So I will be just about a minute or two, and we'll be right back. Let's see. Okay. Okay, and we're back. So let's continue. Drake told you that Crivens was one of Cinnabar's old crew, so they obviously know that you are onto them. You will have to be careful not to attract their attentions further. Hurriedly, if somewhat cautiously, you set off again, away from the markets. Okay. Choosing a location you haven't already visited, where do you want to go now in your search for information? 1 hour have passed since your search began. Okay, so alright, cool. So they block them off so you can't accidentally pick anything, so we can't make a mistake. I dig it. Okay. Let's see. We've got the taverns and inns, the notorious gambling pits, the temple quarter. Let's see the governor himself. You know, let's hit the bars. That's where you get your best idea, your best information, I think. All right. You visit many of the seediest drinking establishments in the city, including the Cat and Cockroach, Angar's Mutiny, and the Barnacle Tavern. However, your inquiries and investigations attract the attentions of those whose interest you did not want to arouse. Having just left yet another smoky barroom, you suddenly find yourself confronted by a group of pirates and black-robed devotees, all followers of Quirky. They have been alerted to your mission by your endless inquiries. Realizing the danger you are in from Cinnabar's cronies, you run for it, as there are far too many for you to fight by yourself. Okay, test our luck, see if we get away. That's a good score. Oh, wow. Oh, okay, I got it. Okay, we're unlucky. Let's deal with it. Running hell for leather, you round a corner and run straight into more of Cinnabar's pirates. You are soon overcome and receiving a blow to the back of your head from a heavy cosh, you lose consciousness. Oh, shit. Okay. So you come to tied to a stone altar before a hideous, phony likeness of the voodoo death god Quirky. You only just have time to take in the fact that you are in a large underground chamber packed with pirates and devotees before a black-robed pirate plunges his sacrificial knife into your heart. Your very blood shall be used to help bring your enemy back to life. The end. Okay, that was fun. I enjoyed that. That was cool. I would play it again to kind of see some different options and see what happens with other choices. Alright, but that will be for another day. For today, I think that's going to be it. We will call it on this one. But that was fun. I enjoyed that. I think I would like to play some more of these. I think I might actually try to download. I saw they had a package collection. But yeah, these are fun. I'm having a ball with this one. So we'll see what the other ones are and some more genres. Some of them look like they're straight horror. Let's see if we can scroll down here and take a look at these. Let's see, Freeway Fighter. Is that one all about family and cars? Island of the Lizard King. Dig it. Creature of Havoc. I'm getting a Lovecraft feel off of that one. The Warlock of Firetop Mountain. That's feeling very D&D. The Citadel of Chaos. That was my apartment before my wife was gone. City of Thieves. I like that. Starship Traveler. Cool, little sci-fi. Trial of Champions. I'm getting like a Trials of Hercules kind of vibe from that one. Let's see, Appointment with Fear. That one looks kind of interesting. Death Trap Dungeon. I feel like I've heard of that before. Let's see, The Port of Peril. Oh, I like the very detailed sketches on that. The dude with the beard, the bald dude, that is some great detail on that face. Let's see, Armies of Death. Ooh, I'm into it. Assassins of Valencia. Is that supposed to just look like Assassin's Creed or the Forest of Doom? Gee, is that almost kind of sort of Doctor Doom in there? Temple of Terror. I really want to see what the hell that creature is. That looks interesting. Caverns of the Snow Witch. House of Hell. Alright, then the rules and the history. Well, let's see. Well, let's actually take a look. Let's see the rules. Welcome to Fighting Fantasy Classics. If you've ever played Fighting Fantasy before, or hoping for a rules refresher, you've come to the right place. Below are links to sections that explain how various aspects of the game work. Press the home button in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen at any time to return to the main menu. Okay, reading Fighting Fantasy game books, skill, stamina, and luck, battles, the adventure sheet, bookmarks, and special rules. Let's see, Fighting Fantasy game books. Fighting Fantasy game books are interactive adventures in which you are the hero. I feel like we read all this before. So let's actually... back to contents. Alright. Let's go home. And let's see. Alright, so that was all that. Let's check out the history. Alright. The year was 1982, and the UK, like every year during the 80s, was filled with the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. The Young Ones and Knight Rider hit TV screens for the first time, Prince William was born, and the Falklands War began and ended. Come On Eileen was the biggest selling single of the year, and Dealy Boppers and leg warmers were the latest fashion craze. But most significantly for thousands of preteens, August 1982 saw the publication of a brand new type of book, one in which you were the hero. Part novel, part role-playing game. The Warlock of Firetop Mountain was the first title in the Fighting Fantasy game book series. The authors, Steve Jackson and Ian Livingstone. Oh wow, Steve Jackson. I wonder if it's the same Steve Jackson. Were not new to the gaming world. They first met at Aldrich Grammar School in 1967, and 7 years later, shared a flat in London. In early 1975, they founded Games Workshop with another old school friend, John Peake. The intention being to create innovative new games to sell by mail order. Huh. Oh, wow. Their first big break came when a copy of Dungeons & Dragons, a unique role-playing game, was sent to them by its creator, Gary Gygax, for review in their fanzine, Owl and Weasel. Steve and Ian were convinced they discovered a gaming revolution and set about securing an exclusive 3-year European distribution agreement from TSR Hobbies, the publishers of D&D. Oh wow, I miss the TSR days. This was soon followed by various deals to distribute other fledgling role-playing games. John wasn't keen on this change of direction, fantasy, gaming, and left Games Workshop mid-1975. Ian and Steve remained convinced that fantasy role-playing and interactive entertainment was the future and went full-time. In 1977, they began publishing White Dwarf magazine. Oh wow, I love White Dwarf. And in 1978, opened the first Games Workshop retail outlet in Hammersmith, London, as well as manufacturing Citadel miniatures. Neat. Okay, I'm gonna take a sip. Okay. In 1980, Games Workshop held its annual Games Day exhibition at the Royal Horticultural Halls in London. The publisher, Penguin Books, had taken a stand to promote a new book called Playing Politics. Steve and Ian got talking to the book's editor, Geraldine Cook. She became interested in the idea of a how-to-do-it book on the whole fantasy role-playing craze. The meeting ended with them being invited to send in a synopsis. Steve and Ian began to discuss what exactly the book would contain, but they soon went off the idea of a technical manual, and their approach began to change. What if you could actually play this book yourself, just as if you were taking part in a solo role-playing game? Using the provisional title of The Magic Quest, the two of them began thinking about how exactly the book would work. Key to the concept was the ability for the reader to make choices which would lead to a branching of the narrative at various points in the adventure. The problem here was to present choices in such a way that readers would never really know how far into the adventure they were, or what was coming next. This problem was solved by breaking up the text into numbered paragraphs and then jumbling them up. For example, the choice of going east or west at the end of paragraph 1 would mean turning to either paragraphs 71 or 278. The manuscript would actually be written sequentially. Each paragraph would be set on a separate page and mixed up later. Once the adventure was written, play-tested, and balanced. Rather like writing a computer program flowchart, Steve and Ian had to keep a careful record of all the monsters, items, objects, coins, spells, potions, armor, weapons, clues, etc. that could be found during the quest to make sure that A, it was actually possible to get through the adventure, and B, it was possible to adjust the balance of the adventure to make it easier or harder where required. Alright, let's continue. An interesting history. I'm liking it. Not a lot of games give you that. I'm really interested in this. By early 1981, a draft of the first gamebook style story was finished, and Steve and Ian sent it eagerly to Geraldine at Penguin for her opinion. Her first question was whether it was a book for adults or for children. Steve and Ian felt it was for both, but this was in the days where the now ubiquitous crossover book and Penguin would have to decide whether to publish it on their adult list or through their children's imprint, Puffin Books. The deciding factor proved to be the Puffin Book Club, which ran through schools across the country. Tony Lacey, head of Puffin at the time, felt sure that the sales potential of The Magic Quest would be much higher if aimed at 9 to 12-year-olds. Perhaps surprisingly, Penguin actually sat on the book's proposal for over 6 months before making a formal offer. During this time, Steve and Ian's frustrations grew. At one point, Steve even sent the synopsis to Allen and Unwin publishers of Lord of the Rings, but they politely declined to take the project any further. When the book was finally commissioned by Penguin, the two authors had only 6 months to complete the text, at a time when Games Workshop was continuing to take up more and more of their time. But in August 1981, they finally began work on the first title in the series that was to change their lives forever. Okay, let's see, next chapter. Ooh, okay. That's the original cover, I'm liking it. 25th Anniversary Edition. Like the Dragon. Oh, that's nice. Complete with combat system, monster encounters, and score sheet. A fighting fantasy game book in which you become the hero. Let's see, to save time, Steve and Ian agreed to write half of the adventure each. The midpoint, where the two halves would join, was planned to be a single crossing over a river. Ian wrote the adventure up to this point, and Steve thereafter. The basic premise of the book was a dungeon-based treasure hunt quest set deep inside the cavernous Firetop Mountain, home to the powerful warlock Zagor. The title was changed from the anodyne The Magic Quest to The Warlock of Firetop Mountain, a title more in keeping with the established fantasy of the Lord of the Rings and Dungeons & Dragons. Prompted by Puffin for something that helped explain the book further, and to allow for related future books if needed, Ian came up with the ingenious series name, Fighting Fantasy. Something that promised readers combat in a world of monsters and magic. Alright, next. If Steve and Ian thought the job was done once they delivered the complete manuscript, they were sadly wrong. The book's editor, Philippa Dickinson, diplomatically pointed out various inconsistencies in the two halves of the adventure, including their separately drafted rules. The two authors had agreed on the three basic attributes of the adventurer, reflecting their fighting ability, constitution, and fitness, and how naturally lucky they were, but had labeled them differently. Steve's skill, stamina, and luck versus Ian's combat factor, strength factor, and luck factor. And there were differences in how these were to be determined. The adventure sheet, where the hero's details and possessions were recorded, went through various drafts too before Ian hit upon the final layout that was to be used, including the use of monster encounter boxes. Another problem had to be solved. The combat system was going to be critical to Fighting Fantasy's success. This is what was going to make the book a role-playing game, rather than just a narrative only. Choose your own adventure. Again, two slightly different versions were offered, and again, Philippa had strong views on these. Steve had both the player and monster striking together, always using 2 dice. Ian had them taking it in turns, with some combats involving 3 dice. Steve sometimes stipulated the number of rounds that must be fought. Ian didn't. The final system was an inspired design, elegance itself. It proved to be one of the many things that would set Fighting Fantasy apart from the various clone series that were to appear later. Artwork. For both the cover and the internal illustrations, was another area in which Fighting Fantasy set the standard. Steve and Ian's experience at Games Workshop made them convinced that these had to be darkly gothic rather than the soft, tame illustrations which were the norm for children's fantasy adventures at this time. They convinced Puffin to use the same artists they had used for White Dwarf, and the rich graphic detail to be found in the work of artists like Ian McCraig, Martin McKenna, Jim Burns, John Blanche became the hallmark of Fighting Fantasy, giving it its uniquely powerful visual appeal. Alright, more story. Meanwhile, Philippa made some crucial observations on the text. For example, choices were presented in various ways when the format should be consistent. There was a werewolf and a wolfman, which was confusing, so one had to go. And the first draft included a song that was copyright protected, but most serious of all was the obvious change in writing styles at the halfway point. In the days of typewritten text, this couldn't be changed easily. So Steve volunteered to rewrite Ian's half of the adventure, having drafted the original outline and sample for the book. The second draft sorted out all these hiccups, and the book was scheduled for publication in August 1982. Puffin was initially cautious about sales, and for the first few weeks this seemed justified. But fueled by articles run in Games Workshop's White Dwarf magazine, and with exposure in schools through the Puffin Book Club, word quickly spread. By the end of the year, the book had been reprinted 5 times. Wow. Puffin realized they needed new titles, and fast. Steve immediately began writing Citadel of Chaos, and Ian, Forest of Doom. Any difference in writing styles would no longer be an issue if the two authors penned their own books. In March 1983, the 3 titles were topping the Sunday Times bestseller charts. The Fighting Fantasy phenomenon had well and truly arrived. With success, inevitably came the critics. An outspoken member of the Evangelical Alliance described the books as the work of Satan and demanded that they be banned. Frequently asked by the media whether stories of swords and sorcery and demons were suitable for a children's publisher like Puffin, editorial director Liz Attenborough did a valiant job of defending the honor of Fighting Fantasy. This was in the days before Philip Pullman's His Dark Materials, Harry Potter, and Darren Shan. But for every critic, there was also a supporter. Teachers, for example, reported how the books had been extremely successful in getting teenage boys to read, particularly those classified as reluctant readers. With the 6th title, Death Trap Dungeon, 1984, selling over 300,000 copies in the UK alone. In less than a year, the series continued to grow apace, and other writers were drafted to keep up with the demand for 6 game books a year. Among these recruits was Marc Gastion, Fighting Fantasy's most prolific talent and subsequent series editor. Fighting Fantasy began to expand beyond its original format into novels, magazines, board games, manuals, and even computer games. Like here we are. There seemed no end to people's appetites. In late 1983, Penguin published the first book in Steve's epic sorcery series, the Shamutenti Hills, spanning 4 books. This series added a unique spellcasting system and allowed for an extended adventuring campaign. The reader could choose to play a warrior or a wizard, with their character able to develop through each book and continue to the next. Okay, that's neat. Let's see, continue. By the end of the 1980s, there were 40 Fighting Fantasy titles. Oh wow. And production began to slow. It was due to stop with its 50th title, Return to Firetop Mountain, written by Ian. But sales were boosted by this revisit to the location of the very first book, and Puffin published a further 9 titles. When the last and 59th book, Curse of the Mummy, was published in 1995, the series had sold over 15 million copies worldwide and was published in over 20 languages. During the 1980s, Fighting Fantasy was probably responsible for bringing more people into the world of fantasy gaming than any other vehicle, and had made household names of Ian Livingstone and Steve Jackson around the world. In 2001, Icon Books was keen to enter the children's book market. Its publishing manager, Simon Flynn, had been a huge fan of Fighting Fantasy, and felt that children of the new millennium would lap up the books if only they knew they existed. It was the perfect series with which to launch their new children's imprint, Wizard Books. After much hunting, he managed to track down Steve's email address, and the deal was struck with Steve and Ian at Joe Allen's restaurant in Covent Garden, London. Always the gamers, the final advance for each book was decided by a game of spoof, which Steve and Ian won. So in June 2002, Wizard Books began republishing the series in a fresh, if different order, with The Warlock of Firetop Mountain, Citadel of Chaos, Deathtrap Dungeon, and Creature of Havoc as the first 4 titles. Dave Holt, a long-term fan, was asked to set up the series' official website, www.fightingfantasy.com, and the site's fan club, the Adventurers Guild. 2003 and 2004 saw a TV advertising campaign, and the series had once again become firmly established in the hearts and minds of children. In 2005, the first brand new book for 10 years was published, written by Ian, Eye of the Dragon. Played on the strengths of the original series, the 60th book Puffin had originally commissioned over 12 years earlier, Bloodbones, and which enjoyed an almost mythical status within the original series community, was finally published in 2006. It was written by Fighting Fantasy stalwart John Green, who went on to write 3 more titles in the series, Howl of the Werewolf, Storm Slayer, and Night of the Necromancer. August 2012 saw the publication of Blood of the Zombies, written by Ian to mark the 30th anniversary of the Warlock of Firetop Mountain. Having worked for 20 years in the video games industry, Ian was aware of the everlasting appeal of zombie slaying. He was also aware of the need to create a very challenging quest with fast-paced combat action. He succeeded with tough-scoring Eurogamer.net, giving it a 9 out of 10 in their review, saying it's surprisingly swift and exciting, with the hectic minute-to-minute battling and health management beats of Left 4 Dead, and a real sense of the old-school RPG. Now, in the digital age, Fighting Fantasy comes to smartphones and tablets thanks to Tin Man Games, so Fighting Fantasy is still very much alive and kicking over 30 years on. May its stamina never fail. Return to main menu. That was cool. I liked that story. I enjoyed that. Alright, well, that's about it for tonight. let's cut that. All right. Well, thanks for hanging out, and have a good night.
Booting up the screen, it's a digital dream. Evil cats, the name, Quirky's the scheme. Space quest calling with a mission to dive. Pixelated worlds where the games come alive. Evil cats, Quirky ride through the neon maze. Clicking paths through the retro craze. Dungeons and dragons rolling dice tonight. It's a quest of quirks under pixel light. Sierra calling, stars in the sky. Puzzles to solve, game files to cry. A D&D maps laid out with care. A heroic endeavor with an evil flair. Evil cast Quirky ride through the neon maze. Clicking paths through the retro craze. Dungeons and dragons rolling dice tonight. It's a quest of quirks under pixel light. Sierra calling, stars in the sky. Puzzles to solve, game files to pry. AD&D maps laid out with care. A heroic endeavor with an evil flair. Evil cats Quirky ride through the neon maze. Clicking paths through the retro craze. Dungeons and dragons rolling dice tonight. It's a quest of quirks under pixel light. Joystick in hand with the mischievous grip. Every crash, every bug just adds to the win. Tune in for laughs as the pixels collide. On Evil Cat's quest, there's no place to hide. Midi tones jamming in an epic fight. Each quirky quest telling tales tonight. From the darkest dungeon to the farthest star. Evil Cat's quest shows who we are. MIDI tones jamming in an epic fight. Each quirky quest telling tales tonight. From the darkest